Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of Q programming. Today we'll be doing the types of arguments in Python and we'll see how we can apply them to the functions that we create, basically inbuilt functions. Let's get into it. So the first kind of argument that we'll be talking about is default arguments. In this you can give the default value to the parameter while defining the function and it will take that value if a value is not passed while calling the function. Okay? So if I say define a function, a very simple function to add two numbers, very easy function, and let's name it add because sum is an inbuilt function. Alright. If I write def add a comma b print a plus b, we all know that this will just add the two numbers a and b. Alright. So, but what happens if I do not give an argument? If I write add 2 comma 3, we all know it's going to just add it. But if I do not pass one argument, it will return an error, type error more specifically, which will say that one missing positional requirement b, right? Which is obvious because our function requires two values whereas is only given one. So what we can do in this case is we can give default arguments. That means this value b, the variable b, the parameter b can be given a default value. So if I write b equals to say 5, here what's going to happen is if I do not pass the value of b, it will by default take the value to be 5. So if I run this, you will see it gives 7 as it should because 2 plus 5 is 7. But it will only take the value 5 if we do not pass a value for b. If we pass a value of b, it will work the same way it should. Alright? So keep this in mind. And one more thing to remember in mind is that the default arguments must only be at the end. If you try to define a default argument for suppose a and not for b, right? If I say a equals to 3, you can see it's already underlined it red and given me an error. No default argument follows a default argument, which means that all the default arguments must begin from behind. There can be no default argument in front if there is no default argument here. If both of them are default arguments, then it's alright. But none of them, it can't be that the first one is a default argument and the second one is not. Alright? So if I run this, we all know what's gonna happen, and if I just do add, we know it'll just take the values of 3 and 9 respectively. Okay? Now let's talk about keyword arguments. Keyword arguments are the values you give to the parameters while calling the function. And the special thing here is that the order of the arguments does not matter as long as the identifiers are correct. So let's say take a simple example. Def increment, inc stands for increment, a comma b comma c, print a plus 1, b plus 1, c plus 1. Alright, simple program, it will just print plus 1 of all the numbers we added. Alright, now the normal way you would think you will pass arguments into this is by writing the values itself. These are the normal type of arguments. If you want to pass keyword arguments, you have to write the variable names a, b and c respectively. So over here, as you can see, if I run this, it will print 3, 4, 5 obviously because each of these values got added by 1. But if I want to give it values right when we call the function, like for each parameter, I can write increment b equals to 4, a equals to 2 and c equals to 5. Alright, what is this doing? It is basically just giving the values right here and there to the respective parameter. As long as the identifiers are correct, the order does not matter. I put b, a, c, it will work just fine. And if we run it, you will see that first a plus 1 will print, then b plus 1 will print, then c plus 1 will print. Right? So any order works. Now let's talk about arbitrary arguments, or in short they're called args. Basically these are used to store an unknown number of arguments, and whatever arguments are received are basically stored as tuples. So a simple program, let's take to multiply like numbers by 5. So def mul, let's just give the name of the parameter num, and let's say print num times 5. This will obviously just print 5 times whatever number we enter. But this is only going to work for one value. If we wanted to work for a whole range of values, we just have to write star num. This asterisk indicates that now we are expecting to receive a tuple, an arbitrary argument, which is what it's called. So instead of just printing num times 5, we will have to loop through the tuple. through this command, and each time we will print I times 5 because each iteration the element keeps changing. Okay, so here I can pass like 10 different values, 5 different values, and it will run the loop through the entire tuple and give me the answer. Alright, so if I run it for 2 comma 3, and if I run it for 2 comma 3 comma 4 5 6, whatever, each time it will, and just for simplicity let's put end equals to just space here so that it doesn't take up too many lines, right? Okay, so, and let's also just print a new line character over here so that we can differentiate between the two function calls. And very easily, if I run this, just see what's going to happen. Both of these are taken as tuples. So first 2 and 3 were taken as tuples, and I multiplied both the values by 5 respectively. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of these were taken as tuple. All of this was taken as one tuple, and it was looped through the tuple and done this. So this is how arbitrary arguments work in Python. Alright. Now we are going to talk about keyword arbitrary arguments, or QARGs. These are used to store an unknown number of keyword arguments. That means keyword arguments, that means if you know how a dictionary works, there is a key and there's a value, right? So each value has a respective key. So if I suppose make a function for logging into a website, so I will write def login, and instead of a single asterisk I will use a double asterisk here with suppose details. Now details here, this double asterisk is telling the function that details, this thing details is a dictionary. So I suppose want to access the username and password, I will write print details, suppose username, username is details username, and password is details password. Like this is how we access elements in a dictionary, right? So while calling the function, we won't have to actually pass in a dictionary, so to say. We can just give the name of the keyword arguments. Like this username and password are the keyword arguments, you can just pass that. So if I say login and I say username equals say Arjun and password equals hello. Alright, if I run this, you will see it just considered both of these as key, username and password, these two things as keys of the dictionary, and Arjun and hello as values of the dictionary, and this entire thing details became a dictionary which printed two things. Alright, I hope you understood these 4 types of arguments in Python from this video. This was for the CBSE curriculum. If you liked it, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to stay tuned for more such videos coming up, and follow us on all our socials. Link is in the description below, and this Jupyter notebook that I just worked on, this Jupyter notebook will be in the notes. Notes is in a GitHub repository, which is link is in the description below as well. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you again.